Is the Black community doing enough to support and protect our LGBTQ brothers and sisters? Or are we part of the problem? Joining us now, recording artist and trans inclusion speaker 2AM Ricky and political analyst Craig Long. I appreciate you both for being here to share your perspectives about what's happening in the community. So 2AM Ricky, I'm going to start with you because we've just heard these numbers about the increases in violence and anti-LGBTQ incidents, and we know that the Black community is getting hit especially hard. What are the unique challenges for Black, gay, and trans men and women that their white peers are not facing?
I think, for one, there is an attack or a view that the trans and queer community is against masculinity that is seen more within the Black community than we're seeing within white communities. They're not having those conversations. I'm a person that, although I am of trans experience, I believe that we can all fundamentally disagree as long as your masculinity or opinion doesn't threaten my existence.
Neo made some comments basically saying, I could not support my child being transgender. Kids are kids. If a boy wants to play with dolls, he can play with them, but he's still a boy playing with dolls. And he got some backlash, but he also got a lot of support with a lot of people saying this is a very reasonable position.
When did it become a good idea to let a 5-year-old, let a 6-year-old, let a 12-year-old make a life-changing decision for themselves?
What Neo said is absolutely right. And a lot of people, even Ricky knows, a lot of people feel that way. A child is a child. Right now, there is an array of different things that children cannot do. They cannot go out and buy alcohol. They cannot go out and buy a cigarette. They can't get behind the wheel and drive. Just because I love my child and I want to make sure that they have a wonderful, beautiful life, but they say, look, I want to start drinking, that doesn't mean that I'm going to create a space for them to start drinking, right? So let's be real here. Like, hey, I don't care what anybody does on their personal time, right? But when it comes to children, why not allow them to wait till they're a responsible adult to make these life-changing decisions?
A lot of people do feel that it's a very reasonable position to say children should not receive any care that is going to affect their gender. What would your response to that be?
So this is not an argument over, do I believe and agree with my child doing this or doing that? It's, do you want your child to live? Do you want your child to be able to live a life that they're healthy, that they're safe, they're not struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts and all of these other things because they're surrounded by a community and a family that is telling them that who they are, who they exist to be, and who they were born as is wrong? Because dad doesn't agree with trans people, because mom disagrees with trans people, because I hear auntie repeating certain things that they heard Jess Hilarious or Neo saying online. Now I, as a child, have to go hide and shelter myself in my room. I can't be honest with my parents about my feelings. I can't be honest with my parents about who I am and what I need. And my parents can't communicate with my doctors, my endocrinologists, the people who are caring for this child to make sure this child can grow up and be healthy and be the person that they deserve to be.
Craig, I want to read you a statistic. An estimated 68% of Black adults believe that gender is determined at birth versus 60% of the general public. So it's slightly higher. That is your view as well. Why do you think we're seeing that in the Black community specifically?
My stance on this subject has been pretty consistent, and I feel that a lot of people feel the same way when it comes to the subject of gender affirming. When what you are at birth through your genitals is who you are. Biologically, if you are born a girl, a female, you're a female. Vice versa, a male.
But why do you think the numbers are higher in the Black community?
I guess in the short answer, just a lot of Black folks use common sense. But when it comes to gender affirming, we use common sense. We say, hey, a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl.
Okay, but when you see the numbers of violence and the hate crimes that are directed specifically towards Black, gay, and trans men and women, do you feel a duty to protect those who are Black regardless of their sexual orientation or their gender orientation?
I mean, for me, my stance is, regardless of someone's skin color, I think that people should be protected, period. Like, no one deserves any type of violence, hatred, or ill will towards them for whatever it is that they choose to do in their personal life, right?
Ricky, do you think that the Black community is vocal enough and active enough in speaking out against some of the hate that we are seeing?
Not at all. And I feel like that's why we're having the conversation that we're having today. Even to go to Craig's response to your last question. Are you really a boy or are you really a girl? They said the same thing when we were in the civil rights movement and we were fighting for Black to have the same rights as our white counterparts. We seem to, for whatever reason, not understand that it's all the same family. We wake up Black before we wake up queer. There are Black women being killed just because people think they're trans. So that's why I'm saying that the reason why that harmful conversation has to be limited, because it's not just we disagree. This is people's lives at stake.
At the end of the day, this is about protection of Black people. And we know that discrimination and violence and murder of Black, gay, and trans men and women is higher than other groups. So, Ricky, what kind of allyship do you want to see from the Black community at large?
And when it comes to allyship, what can we do? Eliminate very harmful thoughts and conversations like that. The reason why the things of what Neo is saying and what Just Hilarious is saying and why that is so dangerous is because you as a person with a platform, right? There are a million people who follow your voice. It's a disservice to our community for us to use our platforms to spew out hatred and harmful misinformation that is affecting millions of people, that are costing hundreds to thousands to millions of people their lives and affecting the next generation. And what the average trans child would have just heard you say is something is wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. I'm sick.
You said we need to eliminate these thoughts. That's where we are now. That's why Neo got backlash. You're talking about a playbook that no one knows in the rules. How can we express how we feel in our opinion? Our opinion on the situation, just as passionate as you are on the opposite spectrum, should be respected. We shouldn't have to feel we're going to get eliminated, canceled, lose sponsorships, so on and so forth.
But Craig, I think the distinction is you're concerned about being canceled, they're concerned about being killed. The argument that people like Ricky are making is that what you are saying, you're entitled to say it, but when you say it, you put their life and safety at risk. All right, we do have to end it there. I do appreciate the tone that both of you have brought to this conversation, because things like this, I think, have the potential to get ugly and hateful, and I'm really, really glad that they didn't. So thank you both for that. Thank you, 2 AM Ricky and Craig Long, for joining us. Really appreciate your perspective.
Yeah, oi.